Good morning, everyone. I am Diksha Jain, and on behalf of Winpe team, a very warm welcome to all of you. We are glad you are here, and thank you for taking the time today. Please allow us a minute meanwhile we allow other participants to join the session. So, for those who are new to Winpe, let me briefly share a little about who we are and the mission that drives us. Winpe is a not for profit platform focused on bringing more women into investing as investors, capital allocators, and industry leaders. We work with PEVC firms to turn diversity goals into meaningful actions. When we launched in 2020, firms often said, "We want to hire women, but we can't find them." What became clear very quickly was that the talent had always been there. The real challenge was creating clearer, more accessible paths into the industry. That's exactly why WinP exists, to make those pathways more accessible for ambitious women ready to build careers in private markets. WinP Ignite is a key part of that mission through career session, masterclasses, job opportunities, and a profile bank where women can share their profiles and member firms can connect with them directly through a private anonymized platform. If you haven't joined the WinP Career Network yet, I highly encourage you to do so. The link is in the chat. And today's session is a perfect example of what Ignite is all about. Real, practical conversations with professionals who have successfully navigated these industries. Now, let me introduce you to our speakers, Ankita Balotia and Daivik Raval, two professionals who have built impressive careers in investing. In Ankita is principal at Fireside Ventures, where she partners with founders building next generation of consumer brand and platforms in India. She works closely with companies on product strategy, customer insight, and scaling business from early traction to sustained growth. Before Fireside, Ankita was part of Venture Highway, now General Catalyst, supporting early stage startups across consumer and technology sector. She also spent over 5 years in consulting at Bain and Company, advising business on growth strategy and digital transformation. Ankita holds a computer science degree from IIT Delhi and an MBA from IIM Ahmedabad. Welcome, Ankita. And joining her is Daivik Raval, Vice President Growth Equity at Trifecta Capital, bringing over a decade of experience across growth equity, investing banking, and entrepreneurship. His background spans investing, capital markets, and hands on business building, giving him a uniquely broad industry perspective. Prior to Trifecta, worked with Mirae Asset, Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, and has backed several of India's leading new age companies, including Swiggy, Big Basket, Cashfree, and Five. He also brings valuable operating experience, having launched his own online consumer business in Middle East. We welcome you, Devik, and our moderator today is Pratiti Dasgupta, a private market and infrastructure finance professional with experience across project finance, capital raising, and investment analysis spanning India, Southeast Asia, and Europe. A WinP ambassador and a part of community since 2021, she is deeply committed to advancing diversity in this industry. Welcome, Pratiti. A few quick things before we begin our session. So, this session is being recorded and an edited version will be shared with you afterwards. Drop your name and role in the chat. Good to know who's in the room. Share your questions anytime. Pratiti will take them through the session of or during Q&A. If your name is not on our registration list, we may need to remove you from the session. So please ensure your display name is updated or complete the registration form shared in the chat. And once we wrap up, do connect with our speakers and each other on LinkedIn. Often the most valuable conversation continues well beyond the session. So now, without further delay, let's get started. Over to you, Pratiti.
Thanks, Diksha, and thanks the Winpe team. Hi, everyone, and we are happy to organize this session for you today. So, every VC firm in India says that they are using AI, but almost none of them can tell you exactly how. And that's what we are exactly here to change today. No buzzwords, no hype, just what's exactly working. Before we start, I would like to, do a kind of a vibe check and launch a poll right now. I would ask Diksha to kindly launch the poll on what's the biggest AI challenge you're facing right now in the industry. Diksha,
Yes, we are just displacing the result.
yeah. Okay, thanks. So, trusting the output, I second guess everything is leading the room. So, Ankita, I would first like to turn to you. So, how does this, this particular pointer that you trust, second guess most of the outputs work out in your industry or in your profession?
Hey, thanks, Pratiti. I think, see, the way it evolves is, as you would see, am I audible? I think Pratiti's video is
Yes, Ankita,
gone.
you're audible.
Yeah, you're audible. You're audible.
Okay, great. So basically, see, if you notice that even the models, the LLMs today have evolved quite a bit. The rate at which they used to hallucinate a year ago or a year and a half ago used to be 40-50%. Now that hallucination rate has gone down to under 5 to 10%. I feel that as the model will evolve, the accuracy of the models is also going to get better. What will end up happening with the need to wait till the model gets perfect, it may so happen that people who are far ahead in the journey of being able to use with the models, quite natively, will get so far ahead that the learning curve would be longer, and then you may get left behind if you don't start using them right now. Also, the way it works is that you make it iterative. Like, in fact, when I do any research on the platforms, I put some boundary conditions saying only quote published reports. Don't guesstimate. Wherever you are guesstimating, please tell me what was the reason behind guesstimating. Then you triangulate. So it's not like the first output you get, you trust that output. There are ways to work around with the models to understand where they are getting their output from. Like, you go to the citations, you give it multiple prompts, you actually ask it to double check its own output. So it's an evolving process, it's an iterative process. All I would say, we have reached 90-95% accuracy with the models. You never know, in the next 1.5 years, it will reach 98%. So don't wait for it to become perfect before you start getting onboarded onto the models.
Thank you, Ankita. David, what is your point of view on this?
Yeah, I think I completely agree with Ankita on that front. I look at like prior to the session, I was just highlighting, I look at it slightly from this angle, right? Like there are tasks which are okay with 95, 99% accuracy, and because you are trying to see the trend, you are the some error is okay, but at the same time it does take a lot of time. These are repetitive SOP driven tasks where you know a specific source that you want, and so the input itself is not generic and not very broad based, right? Like, to give an example, let's take an example like I track a few public market companies as our portfolio has gone. Some of them are public. I want to see how is the shareholding change with time. Right now, the task used to take anywhere like a 45 minutes on a monthly basis when we used to track mutual fund shareholding, which is publicly disclosed every month. Right? If you know the right source from which you can pull the information, if you can give like a skill to your whatever the platform you are using to build a repetitive task on top of it, I think then what I have seen is the outputs are pretty solid. But on the other hand, if I give it a slightly generic input, very broad based task where I myself don't know what specific output and in which structure I want, I think in those cases, I think definitely the models are still hallucinating. But to that, what Lankita highlighted, there are now implementation services coming from various firms on AI where they are building this your company specific model on your proprietary data where you can limit the output to what you are putting in rather than it generating output on its own. So that's why I would say like you can definitely start with implementing tasks which are repetitive, SOP driven, very clear cut input that you have, and you have a very standard output in your mind. I think those tasks are very easy to automate, and that's a great way to just start at least interacting with the model to start getting comfort on the output. That's how I have started implementing it.
I
Yeah.
think one skill that is going to be very, very helpful is prompt engineering. Um, you know, now that AI is automating the most of the tasks that we used to do, especially research based, right? Like going on to different links, fetching the data, putting it together, doing the analysis. Now somebody else is doing that task. So where is your job? It's going to be more on what is it, the creativity with which I can say, okay, these are the tasks that I can automate, or these are the kind of researches I can pull out, or these are the kind of analysis I can do on top of the data I have pulled out. So it's left to human imagination, like what all can you do with the data that you have available. For example, what Davik mentioned. I mean, today, what happens in most of these professional services industries, a lot of knowledge is in somebody's mind. Like partners would have some knowledge basis their experiences through the journey. A principal would have some knowledge, an associate would have some knowledge, right? And earlier, the diversification or the wedge used to be a knowledge of an associate would typically be lower compared to a partner. But can you democratize that knowledge? Is there a way you can create a second brain, or whatever you call it, a central knowledge repository, which combines multiple data sources and whatever knowledge is sitting inside our brains to democratize it? Like tomorrow, if an associate is having a conversation with a founder, he is able to have that level of conversation that a principal or a partner would have. So those are the things which are imaginable. Now it is up to you. How do you think through, and how do you imagine where all can I use the capability which now exists? For us, it's like, can I make a knowledge brain of my firm that every discussion they're having with experts is somewhere sitting somewhere, so that tomorrow it is accessible. So those are the things you need to think through, imagine, and use prompt engineering. Like that's a basic course wherein the better your prompts get, the better output you will start getting.
That's great to hear, Ankita, and thank you, Devik, for your nuggets of wisdom. Moving on to deal sourcing, my first question would be this to you, Ankita. So, for someone who is evaluating basically, sectors or tracking opportunities, where can AI meaningfully improve sourcing or the workflows?
Yeah, see, I'll tell you two places you can use AI when you're evaluating a company. One is on your thesis building that I'll touch upon next. The first one is sourcing itself, right? Earlier, how you used to source, and that still continues. You will get a reference from your network. You will know a founder, you would have access to multiple groups that you'll be part of, and you'll know somebody's building or not building. And one of the biggest one used to be LinkedIn scraping. Like you go on LinkedIn, you see whoever has changed their recent um, job profile from being a CXO or somewhere to being building or in stealth, etc. Now, all of these, what used to be a very manual task, right, earlier, can be automated. Like you can build agents on top of LinkedIn, which is today, like the moment I see somebody who is in my tracking list, like on LinkedIn, I can build multiple tracking lists. Like if I am a VC investor and I know there is another fellow VC investor who invests at the same similar stage and invest in similar companies, I can track the connections if there is an additional connection they have gotten. So can that probably be a new founder? You can also track, before somebody starts or before they are wanting to raise a new round, they become active on LinkedIn. So that automation has become easier. That used to be very manual. Like you have to go through so many pages and pages and pages of LinkedIn. That has become very automated. What you can also do today, which at least we do for our industry because we invest in a lot of brands, you have platforms. For example, Amazon is one such platform. Your quick commerce are one such platform. Your Instagram is one such platform. A brand which is breaking out or a product which is breaking out, you will start seeing those early signals in these platforms. So you can see what's the rating and review, what's the growth rate of that product or that company on Amazon in the last 3 months and in the last 6 months. If something which is breaking out, if something is getting more reviews and more ratings, that's something you can highlight. And it's become very easy with data scraping and building intelligence on top of it on Gobble Cube. Um, you get a lot of new age brands getting listed on Blinkit or Insta or Zepto. It's earlier my analyst or my associate used to search for a category and go through all the brands which are listed and see which are the newer brands that have not received funding so far. That task is now automated for me. So I like somebody could build an agent, can go through all the companies, whatever is not matching with my earlier list can highlight to me. This is a brand which has got high rating. Probably you should speak to that brand.
Got it. That's very insightful. And let's make this a bit more concrete then, with the situation that we might relate to. So, say, Ankita, you're exploring India's, D2C beauty or fit tech space. So, how would you, can you walk us through how would you practically use AI to map the market, identify trends, and shortlist companies?
Yeah, so see, we are the way we are structured, we are very thesis forward. So I would know within D2C, within each sector, which is food and bev, beauty, personal care, or lifestyle and fashion, what are the specific areas like beauty? I would not just track entire beauty. I would know what are the kind of spaces which are still vacant. For example, fragrances or derma beauty. I would not go after, let's say, natural beauty because Mama Earth has already built on top of natural beauty or nat habit. That is not the trend which I know. And for trend inciting also, what you can do is today, let's say on Instagram, you have so many influencers posting. The first way to you get to know a trend is coming to India is via Instagram today. When your influencers start posting of the on that trend. To give you an example, if you see the way protein wave has come in India, right? It's because that information is going around on Instagram. Every influencer be or celeb, be it macro, micro, or mini influencer or nano influencer, is speaking about how do you incorporate more protein in your meals. Or the this exosomes or PDRN. That is another new trend, which is an early trend, which only a few dermats on Instagram have started speaking about. Earlier, that would be a very lengthy manual task to go through what every influencer is speaking about, do the trend analysis. But now all those tasks are automated for me. For example, there is a list of influencers I follow or my fund would want to follow. I'll see what they're posting and get that data. transcribed and run an analysis. What are the newer trends they're speaking about, wherein a new company does not exist? I'll get new thesis or new areas or insights where it I would want to invest. Layer that up with your scrolling or your scraping on top of the platforms where brands are present. Most brands, the moment they launch, they would be there on Amazon. They would be there on their website. They would be there on Amazon. Quick commerce still takes some time. So in fact, if you're getting a lead on quick commerce, that's a better lead, because quick commerce does a basic level of checking on a company. Like they have to have some amount of revenue. The product needs to meet some bar. They need to have some level of null searches on the platform. So that's how you build the workflow. You build your thesis basis the trends which are happening internationally and in India. Then you go on platforms, you figure out which are the companies which are building in these spaces and are growing and are breaking out. And then you go on LinkedIn, right? You reach out to those founders, and this entire workflow from thesis to founder reach out can be automated today.
That's actually very insightful, Ankita. And coming to you, Devik, so where do you think that on the deal sourcing part, so where does AI accelerate sourcing on your workflows, and where does human pattern recognition still matters the most? If you could please tell us.
Yeah, sure. So see, I think from a growth stage perspective, right, I think it's slightly different from what it happens at early stage. So in a growth stage, I think the relationship matters. And I think the sourcing in general in VC is obviously relationship heavy, and then you have some data. Now with AI, I believe hopefully the data will have equal weightage in the same as the way with the way Ankita mentioned, where you can use some of the tools like happenstance or harmonic AI, etc. Happenstance, you can basically integrate with your all the contact list, not only LinkedIn, but LinkedIn, your Twitter, your mobile contacts, not only of yours, but also of your team members, to figure out connections. Right now, this part basically solidifies the relationship, that part which I'm talking about, because like typically in a growth stage, a company might have been identified, so some data would be available on some of the platform. You use a lot of MCP, like Traction is MCP. Private Circle still does not have MCP, but you can try to obviously use some model on top of the data that you can download, and using all of that to do some bit of a market mapping. That's one where the data is already available. The second is the relationship, is where it will be still human driven. It has to be still, obviously you still have to go and meet your friends rather than both people's bot talking or the AI models talking, but you will still go and meet them. It's just that how AI can assist you, right? Here it won't be AI driven, it will be more AI assistant. And this is the way I say it, right? Like you use some of those tools like happenstance basically to figure out for any specific deal. Like you might not have direct connection, but your friend's friend might have. Now that can help you do a warm intro to a person. Second, the way I look at it is that there is certain coverage, right? Like for us, the deal comes either from banker or some friends, colleagues from early stage investors. Now, for both, the coverage is so important, right? Like usually what we used to do, put it on our calendar on a whatever, like a quarterly or 6 monthly basis to catch up. Sometimes we forget, like the calendar goes away, either I am on leave or they are on leave, and things go completely out. Now, in that case, for you to continuously maintain that the coverage, at least at the firm level or at the team level, is very active, is where the AI tool can definitely assist, right? Because those things will keep highlighting whether have you covered the investor base or in banker base that you have been given, and meeting them regularly in order to make sure that they also remain active in that front. So that's how I look at it. So the relationship part definitely will not, at least for now, is going away. I mean, AI is assisting in creating those relationships stronger and making sure that those relationships don't go stale and you just reach out when you need them, basically. That's how I
Devik,
would
you
say.
mentioned two tools, happenstance, and the other one was?
I mentioned Happenstance and Harmonic AI. I think Harmonic is still more like a US base. I mean, the global investors in general are using. They have a proper database, which is, I think, slightly different from Crunchbase and CB Insight. But I think it does help you connect your various databases, like as I said, Twitter and your contact list, because it happens. Like I might want to reach out to some friend I might have met 6 months back, but I don't recall whether I saved
Yeah.
number, what was last conversation. I think those things can. I think you can try to use some of this tool to enhance your work.
Correct. So basically, we also use a deal CRM wherein
Yeah.
everything bases a company, an opportunity, a lead that we would have, from first meeting, if you think that maybe this is a founder we should speak to 6 months later. So you can put a reminder. The conversation you had with the founder, the data. I think in all of this, before you move to AI, what is most critical is that you have the data for AI to even work on top of, right? I
Yeah.
think the more we are realizing, the more we are making our workflows AI assisted, is that before the AI, it's the data standardization, capturing, and your databases have to be sorted. So the first thing we did, we implemented a deal CRM. Like we worked with this Indian company called Tag Hash. They work with multiple funds, including Z47, Matrix, etc. And what will what used to happen earlier, like if I've reached out to a founder, anyone else reaching out to the founder does not even have the context. Like if I had spoken to that founder, what I had spoken to that founder about, what were the questions I had, and what were the next stages, like what were the things I would have wanted to see in that founder. Now centralizing that knowledge in a database helps you do that. Tomorrow what you can do with the data is also, for example, I'm evaluating a company in ready to cook space, just taking an example. I would have spoken to 10 such companies. Now, if I have to go and see, like, what would be the comparison of 10 companies, right? It's such a manual task that you have to go to the pitch decks and the MIS of 10 such companies. First, you have to see where those pitch decks and MIS is. It would be sitting on your Gmail or somebody's laptop, your associate's laptop, who would have left the fund. Now, new person would have come in. So, you would have lost a lot of data. But today, with the data sitting in a central place, you can run the prompts that, all the companies I've seen in this space in the last 3 years. Help me build a competitive. And you can give it, how do you build a competitive? Scale, margins, customer rating, customer review, positioning, etc., etc. So the first realization is that you first need to solve for data and workflows before you even start implementing AI at an organizational level.
Yeah, I mean, on that part, just one small point to add. I think in earlier version, pre-AI, CRMs were more like a push product. Like, I mean, it becomes very boring, like for you to just keep posting whatever the meeting notes. Either first of all, you have to keep posting it. You have to manually enter which company you met, when did you meet. Most of the time, and what we have seen, and like most of the people don't update it, or then you have to push at the end of the week or at the end of 2 weeks that you haven't updated. I think with AI, I think CRM is like a must have tool with an AI integration, because then it becomes very easy for you to store data. I think that's the first and foremost knowledge base, so to speak, you can create at the farm level. And rather than it becoming a push product, then it becomes more like a pull, where basically it can automatically pull information from your meeting notes, which can be granola, which I'm most probably most of the people are using in on this call. But then it can pull some of those information and keep your CRM updated, as Ankita highlighted.
That's great, guys. And even I also agree because I myself have used Harmonic AI to some extent because that has a relationship intelligence. As I think AI is giving the relationship intelligence layer, which, which humans might take a lot of time. It might cost us a lot of time to, replicate. So before we move on to the next session, just a quick heads up. If your name is not on our registration list, we may need to remove you from the session. So please ensure that your display name is updated, or if you have not completed the registration, please complete the registration form shared in the chat by Diksha. Moving on to the next part of the session. So we have covered how AI, helps find companies. Now let's go to what happens after the check is written, because that's where a lot of value is actually won or lost. Daivik, I want to bring you in here first because on the debt side, portfolio monitoring is not just about growth, it's about survival signals. Before we start, I would like to launch a live poll. Diksha, the live poll is on once a team is invested in a company, how are you currently monitoring portfolio health? Diksha, could you launch the live poll?
Yeah, give me a minute, Pratiti.
Yeah.
We request everyone to share their thoughts by opting the selective option.
Great. Thank you, Diksha. So, mostly through quarterly board decks and founder calls leads the room. So, David, I would like to come to you
Yeah.
first. Like, does this match what you're seeing across the industry?
Yeah, I mean, like I've spoken with obviously colleagues of my industry and my own experience also, right? I think this journey is like same. Basically, everyone start with no AI use, then slowly, steadily moving to some basic research, summarization, etc. on some AI platform, and then hopefully, I'm very sure like within next 6 to 12 months, obviously it will vary from firm to firm. Everyone will move to their own in-house tech team ultimately deploying some form of AI at an enterprise level. It's taking time, but I understand. Like, I mean, in general, like, I think it's slightly funny. As a VC industry, we evaluate a lot of this emerging technology, and we are the always late adopter of all of that. And I don't see that changing even in this case. But as I said, like, this is improving, and hopefully, eventually, everyone will deploy some sort of AI workflows and custom tools within their organization.
That's really great. And Ankita, coming to you, once the investment is made, so where is AI actually changing the way you monitor a portfolio company today?
Now, before that, I think someone had mentioned we have a dedicated firm-wide platform to do this. I would love to hear from the person who clicked on that option. What is it that they are using? If the person who had clicked on that wants to share what they used or
I only
how they
clicked
are
on it.
approaching this problem
So
statement.
I only clicked on it. So we use Cobalt actually. We use Cobalt for, there's this portfolio management system called Cobalt. So we usually the project finance deals that we work on, they have different metrics, of course, and they have it's different asset classes that we are working on, like tolls, like transport, like say renewables, like digital infra. So we use Cobalt, and it has helped us a lot. So it's basically a mix of sophisticated AI driven Excel and PowerPoint. So it has actually streamlined a lot of my work by preparing. So we have to create the templates in the software itself, and it has streamlined a lot of my work by producing the pre-generating the quarterly reports and everything. And but now with the AI integrations, it has definitely catapulted to a different level. So yeah, I would suggest all of you to I would encourage all of you to try it out. It's really good.
Yeah, and some of the other just tool to highlight, right? Since Prati and since you also mentioned about the tools. So there are companies like two ways to look at. Again, I look at company. One is India specific companies which do more like implementation at your firm level using your own internal database. Again, like data, obviously privacy is a concern. So there are companies which are coming in. Like there is a company called Fundrave. There is another company called Crital. They help you build on connect with your own Google Drive or whatever OneDrive database that you have. Like usually we have like for each company multiple subfolders, MIS, AOPs, and so and so forth. As we speak about the monitoring part, we'll speak, but that sits on top of it as an intelligence layer and help you pull whatever information you want, and then also create various dashboard, which becomes very easy
Yeah.
to track some of those companies.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's what we have been doing too. And I think that's the entire point. AI assisting you, not AI replacing you completely. So that's the entire point of the, the invention or the technological advancement. So Devik, on this note, if I might ask you, so say you have invested in a startup and it's, kind of 18 months in. So how do you use AI to catch, various signals early before it shows up in a board deck, what metrics you're watching, and what, if any specific tools you use to surface those signals, and what AI still misses.
Yeah. I think on this, like, I would again like divide it in two part, because I know your question is specific on what is not in the board deck, but at the same time, what is given in board deck, what is given 18 months back during your time of investment, what is given in MIS. I mean, that itself is also a lot of data for you to analyze and obviously figure out some signals and then ask the right question during board meeting. So I would first, to be honest, like divide it in the part one where data is easily available. I'm not trying to tap into alternate data points. That comes as a second part. So in the first part, like what happens at the time of investment during your multiple calls that you would have done with management team, tier two, second level management team, etc. First and foremost, I think, as I highlighted very simply, like Granola, which in general helps you transcribe all the meetings, obviously with permission of the other person. You can probably keep having it as a database and data source. As I said, like any intelligence layer, you can only apply on top of some existing data. So first and foremost, it's very important to solve that point. What AI helps is basically synthesize data across multiple formats like PDF, PPT, Excel, some Word document, etc., which is all sitting in silos across folders. You want to synthesize and then probably apply intelligence layer on top of it to ask the right question. So if I have a portfolio company, first and foremost, like we do track obviously on a monthly basis, depending on MIS. At the year end, year start, you get a AOP, which sometimes also gets revised once or twice depending on how industry changes. You lose track of all of that. I'm telling, like, because those notice all those data points are so scattered, and you try to do it everything on Excel, and still obviously, I mean, we all are obviously doing up to certain extent on Excel, and then slowly steadily as we get more confidence we are transferring. And on that front, as I highlighted, right, like some of those tools, right, like which help you create some insights on those databases, right? So I think that's the first and foremost thing to do, right? Like where you can create a dashboard. Like most of the time, like going for a meeting, you don't know what happened in the last year, right? During your discussion with the company on the performance, you forget like what industry data point they mentioned, what did they mention. Like, I mean, it's human, because if you are tracking like 12 portfolio companies at a point in time, for a second example, I mean, it's human nature, like for you to probably forget some of those nuances. And then half of your time during board meetings should not go into revising what was already discussed. And that's where, again, as I said, like some of those tools where you already have a database can help you really prep by applying an intelligence layer on top of it. That's the first way I look at any monitoring aspect. Second, like some of very minute and simple things, right? What right do you have? What is a cap table? How does it look like? How has it changed from ESOP grant last time to this time, right? Like again, like companies also keep creating multiple cap tables over a period of time, sitting in 10 different data types. I mean, how do you even humanly like probably try to ingest all data and make a very uniform decision, right? While going for any approval at the level. Those all things, again, as I said, like I think where I can help you basically connect the dots and help you get the information at the right place. Now, to that question, like apart from analyzing, right now coming to the question, apart from analyzing what is given in board data point, like I think here first and foremost I want to put the limitation upfront, right? Like, see, AI can only ingest data which is digitally available in the free sources unless you connect with some of the paid sources. So if something is sitting in some public market research analyst report and it's not publicly available, I don't think so model will be able to pick those data points, right? So first let's understand the limitation, then we can implement it better, as how I look at things. From alternate data perspective, if my company is digitally native, then definitely I can basically track those data points, like what Ankita highlighted, like consumer brand companies selling on Amazon, Flipkart, and few whatever the sales channel. You will have reviews, you will have ratings, you can track it on a monthly basis. If there is a drop, that kind of highlights, Pratiti, what your concern is, that is product losing its trend or what's happening, right? That's one way to look at alternate data points, right? Other data points which I think usually people mention, like I haven't very extensively used, again, as I said, the limitation is to remove, like whether your company is that digitally native and are they updating those data points in real time. Is the hiring trend, like someone is saying, I want to, for an example, continue to explain on consumer brand, consumer company, they want to expand from online sales channel to offline. Now that involves, first of all, do you have internal bench strength to expand into that? So that's why you will go for hiring. Are you posting some of those hiring? Now here the limitation is also because those are probably, if it's senior level hiring, it might not go through LinkedIn. So I would say it's not 100% clear signal, but you will can still try that. Have you started the process? We are unable to see it. So those conversation can be more data concrete rather than just having like relying on my word versus your word. So some of those alternate data points, I think nowadays people have started tracking in terms of review ratings, which we used to do at the time of investment, and after that it becomes too cumbersome and too time consuming, as Ankita highlighted. You can try to use that. And the second is what I think usually I have been hearing in the industry is the hiring trend that people are nowadays tracking for a growth metric. But at the same time, like all your other public data source, MC, etc., is all a lagging indicator. Even when they are laggard than the board meetings that you are doing, right? So just understand the limitation and then try to figure out the best and unique ways, right? In terms of competition, have they opened store? How is it? How are you seeing on Google? There are Google APIs, by the way, right, which you can integrate. But so these are the ways, Prakriti, like alternate data points that you try to understand more. Um,
I can probably add to this, See, first and foremost is like you need to have all the data related to a company in a central place. And today it's become so democratized, I'll tell you, in our team, anyone can today put the data into Claude and just ask it to build a dashboard, which can be updated real time. It's become like earlier one would build a Power BI, pick up different metrics from different places. Now what you can do is with just a one simple prompt, a company gives you an annual operating plan and a business plan. And then as a fund manager or portfolio manager, you'll typically track them basis what they had promised you at the beginning of the year and course correct in case things have not panned out as you had expected it to be. I mean, those are very easy to run. You get your monthly MISs from the companies, you have your annual operating plan, you can build a good agent or a dashboard which tells you how much far off you are from your AOP. But you can also do signals like if the moment your company has less than 8 months of runway, you can ask it to build triggers. Okay, tell me which are the companies which have less than 8 months of runway and therefore have to go out in the market. Companies, what you can also do on top of this, for example, we have 65 companies, right? And there would be companies in different cohorts. There would be a company, let's say, who has gone through the journey of 5 crore to 10 crore, and there is a company who is now in that journey. For you to be able to tell that company what a good benchmark would look like, if you have that cohort level data, that there is like if we are investors in 10 such companies, I can build my own benchmarks and democratize it at no name basis, that this is what the best in class looks like, this is what the mean and median looks like, which is exactly what your pitch book would do, right? They have democratized data collection and at the no mask level, able to give those benchmarks to the next set of companies. You can run it at a fund level. At a fund level, if you can build a dashboard saying, okay, kind of queries you can run. Which are the companies which are less than this much percentage of revenue or this much percentage of CM2? Which are the companies which have very far off or have seen a very aberrant, a big aberration recently? For example, if a company has been growing 10 to 12% month on month, and there is one such quarter that they have not grown or they have actually degrown, can you pick up those signals very well? So it's all about what it is. Like I said earlier in my discussion, it is left up to imagination that once you have the data, what all can you build on top of this data, right? You can build company level analysis, you can build cohort level analysis, you can build fund level analysis. If you have the discussion notes from your previous meeting, it becomes so easy for you to prepare for your next meeting, right? This is what was discussed in the last couple of meetings. This is what you had to follow up on your next meeting. This is where the variance from AOP to your MIS is. This is where from your signals the company rating or reviews has dropped or improved, or these are the new launches they have done. There are so many signals you can build on top of it, and the kind of use cases you can build is now left to human imagination where all you can use it.
That's really insightful. I think it depends on, we can do, from what I gain out of this conversation also, like you said, Ankita, we can do fund level, company level, as well as, the cohort level analysis using the relationship layer that we build using the AI. That's really insightful. Now, we have very little time left. So let me, move on to the rapid fire section before, kind of, opening the floor for Q&A. So the first question of rapid fire is for you, Ankita. One AI tool or workflow you actually use. You have to name it. You don't have to describe it.
Gobble Cube.
Okay. And what about you, Daivik?
Yeah, I would say Granola and some custom workflows built on top of LLM.
And the second question is for also for both of you. One piece of career advice for someone in the room who wants to make AI a genuine professional age.
I would say, see, start with doing some workshops. There's so many workshops available on YouTube on just prompt engineering. That how do you build a good prompt or a good dashboard? Just start with the very basics. Give it one Excel, ask it to analyze that Excel. Just do basic things and then build on top of it. Like, I mean, I'm a non-technical person, if you would call it, right? And I just did 2 days of workshops, and the kind of use cases I could build, and I would go to my fund and say, oh, see, this is what I've built. Now everybody in the team, an associate is building a different dashboard, someone else in the finance team is building a different dashboard. Just need to get started, and once you're surpass that stage, you can build many things on top of it.
Yeah, I think my advice is as follows, right? I think first, if you are new to the industry, I mean, you don't understand the industry. So first try to understand the industry and processes, because your tool is as strong as what, as I said, the input you can give, not only in terms of data, but in terms of also the workflow that you want to develop. So that's one, try to go as deep as possible into understanding the underlying processes of the industry, how people look at this thing, right? And then on top of that, obviously you use and learn various AI tools which are coming nowadays on how can you integrate and automate a part of those processes, and how can you augment the part of those processes, how I look at it. But it's just that if I get a Ferrari and I don't get road, or I don't know how to drive it, I mean, it's not possible. So it's just simple as that, like, understand the process. If I don't know what an investment memo is or what all should it cover, then just giving it a cloud and getting a standard output, or using any tool and getting a standard output, is like anybody can do from outside the industry. Your edge comes from the judgment, your edge comes from understanding the nuances of the processes, is how I would probably put it here.
That's great. That's very insightful. And so right now we move on to the Q&A session. I will open the floor. So the first question we have is from Mitali Srivastava. Which tools are this, if you can share the name, for automating LinkedIn scraping?
Yeah, this we built with the help of an engineer on top of LinkedIn. There is no such tool. I mean, you have to get LinkedIn Sales Navigator, which enables you to build lists and track people. And then you have to do some level of automation on top of it.
Got it. Got it. And the next question is from Disha Sanjaka. I understand that from the two of you, where's the data and what can be automated. However, how to build the agents and workflows is unclear. And how exactly do you build the agent, and how can a non-techie build this? And can we build using no-code tools of our own? Yeah, so that's the question.
I can just share one experience, which I think, as I just alluded, look at the starting of the call. I'll give a very simple example, right? Like, again, as I say, like, if you know from where to pull information, what is the standard output? If you have done it manually, right, you can very easily automate, use a Claude skill option. So what it involves is paid, like, take whatever the paid subscription, just, and this is all public data, so there is no concern about any privacy information, etc. Like I track certain, as I said, like public companies for the shareholding change on month basis. What I do is I know certain to, like there is a Rupee West which provides for the last 3 months, but it does not provide for last 12 months. I want to see the trend. I want to see who is buying, selling, and I wanted to see it in certain format, right? Like they provide it on a fund level. I want to combine and see it on an AMC level. So asset management company like Mirai would have 5 funds which are buying and selling certain stock. So I have definitely a set of process, right? You basically go and tell Claude in a chat or a co-work space, definitely the exact process. It won't come perfect on the first time. It will give you an output. You keep refining it and just tell it to make it a skill. So what it will do is it will save the whole process that you have gone through, which at the first time might have taken 30 minutes to explain things over a period of iteration. It will compress it and make it a skill. And then it will also create a folder where it will give you output, right? Specific folder in which every month the output will be given. Next time, in which I just ran it yesterday, I just told it that okay, just do it for these two companies, what I have already told you in the skill. And I just hit enter. The whole task, which anyway manually used to take 30-45 minutes, which also took me 30 minutes first. I think it just did it in 2 minutes and gave me the output. Then my work is obviously to just to make sure that the output is correct and there is no error. But here, when you have a very clear SOP, very clear output in your mind rather than having a generic output, you can just use Claude skill wherever there is no privacy concern, etc., public data, and it will work absolutely fine.
Got it, Daivik. And the next question is from Ayushi Agarwal. It's a typical ethics question that while using AI for secondary research, say for a market thesis, so it feels like we overuse, AI a lot of time, most of the times, and it may be unacceptable. So is relying on AI for these kind of things now considered acceptable? And what kind of, what are your opinion on this ethics questions? Yeah.
You can actually, when you're running a prompt for market research, ask AI to quote and give you the citations where it is picking it up from. And I mean, if your sources are credible, I don't think there is any question regarding the ethics or the relevance of the data points that you give. But you have to ground the two. For example, when you are running your prompt, you have to tell it that only take data from credible sources. Don't pick it up from, let's say, LinkedIn. Don't pick it up from Instagram or don't pick it up from Reddit. Only the ones which are credible sources. You can, at times, you can also tell it what kind of sources are credible sources, right? And whenever, see, it's an iterative process. You can't take whatever AI is throwing to you to your whatever investment committee and take that in a memo. You have to proofread it. Wherever you're feeling that there is a difference from what you had thought or some data point or some nuance it has thrown which you yourself find questionable, then you ask it to double check where it is getting that input from. Like very recently one of my associates was running a prompt for figuring out the market size for condiments industry. Now, in the condiments, you have things like fryams, papad, pickles, etc. Those numbers were listed in one of the DRHP. So again, a credible source. For some of the smaller things like sauces, etc., it just built its own bottom up analysis. And I was like, this is not sounding right. So you have to proofread, you have to check, you have to look at the sources where it is getting from. Double ask where are you getting this exact data point, and then after you do all of those steps, then you submit. I don't think there is any issue. I also read a question saying that can you put your confidential data on Claude? I think buy a Teams license that protects the data that you're putting in. I think those were the questions we also had, and we worked with a lot of consultants to analyze what we should do. If GPT paid version, team version, again the same thing. These are the models which typically would not use your data to build its own
Right.
intelligence. Even on Gemini, when you log in into Gemini, it will ask you, there is an option in the settings, okay, if they can use, even on the free version, if they can use your data to build its own, enhance its own knowledge base, you can check that off and it will not use any data.
Yeah. And well, Ankita covered the definitely very well data part in terms of thesis, right? I think I just have a one point right here is that uh, like just creating the first and final cut completely using AI is one thing, and then having it as a base case and then having your own judgment and applying your own thought process by working across three or four different sources and then mooking is a slightly different way to operate with AI. So I would just say on that process part, like, sure, I mean, probably if you also do and I also do the whole thesis using AI and as a first cut and all of them are doing, then there is no alpha to create in the market. For you, the alpha comes from obviously synthesizing data in the right manner and then obviously using some of the processes or some of the judgment that which other people will not be using and which AI will not by default use it. So that's the process part just to cover.
Definitely, definitely. That makes a lot of sense. So we have 4 minutes left and we have two more questions. So let's I mean we have to be a little mindful of time. So the next question is from Mansi Bansal. She's telling that we have noticed a lot of degree of caution, regards AI adoption, specifically around, data security issues, data privacy concerns and everything. So how do you navigate this data privacy concerns, and are there any frameworks that you to ensure the kind of that you use to ensure that data security and output quality are never compromised?
Yeah, I think on this two parts, part on the output quality never compromised, right? I think as I said, like again, like I know it sounds repetitive, but your output is as solid as your input. And that's where if you have things built on top of your internal database, then you are very sure that it is not hallucinating and going outside that those boundaries which Ankita said. You put your boundaries to make sure that the output is reliable from those sources. And at the same time, as I said, like initially, like obviously these things are evolving, right? I think in our mind, I think probably we are envisaging AI as like completely tool, like we are drinking coffee and it's just executing. Probably things don't work that way, and it will take time for ultimately some of those things to happen. So figure out the areas where some minor error is okay, where you can check things rather than like spending same time on checking things as building. You can probably remove that period and have a 1/10 of time you can spend and check things. So that's the way I think on the output quality we try to obviously make sure. And I think on this data security, right, as Ankita highlighted, couple of things for large language models. Obviously, there is inbuilt for enterprise and other thing. You can obviously make sure that those models don't use your data to train their model. That's point one. And second, some of those other, anyways, I highlighted, like India specific AI implementation services are coming. They also make sure that they do all those security concern, they solve your security concern and build on top of it. And so that's why if you don't want to build in-house or don't want to build on your own, I think better to hire some of those agencies, right, who can truly help you obviously make sure the security is there. And the second part is that it only goes around the data that you have rather than going in the web and searching for the data. That's the two way I would say to implement security and the quality
And
concern.
today, SEBI has come up with certain data protection rules for AIF Cat 2 and Cat 3. So for that, like I would always suggest have a consultant who can tell you, like if you're using tools off the shelf, will they comply?
Comply.
Like we have a resource, a senior resource who tells us on this compliance front because it's very critical if you're handling uh, confidential data, especially from the LP's front.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. Akriti has a very interesting question that since AI is able to undertake several of the tasks that junior analysts or associates typically work on, then what advice, would you give to an incoming analyst or associate at a firm to make them stand out despite the AI, upheaval that's there? And aside from prompt engineering, are there any new skills that aspiring analysts or associates should, look to build in light of AI?
See, like I think we've mentioned multiple times, AI is not going to replace. It's only going to make you do work in a smarter way. It will improve your productivity and efficiency. I think what the way we are looking at it is the job or the task amount of work that one analyst could do earlier, in a week's time, can they do it in a 2 days time? So can that analyst produce or an associate produce the work of three analysts earlier uh, within a single person. So I think, and also at the on top of it, build a better output. So, for example, my benchmark would be, can my number of reviews on a memo reduce? And the analyst himself or herself has been able to get a job 90% there, and my amount of involvement is reduced. I think there would always be jobs around it. The difference between a very good analyst versus an average analyst would be, number one, how AI native you are. Can you use those tools to automate some of the tasks that you would have been manual? Can you become smarter about it? For example, earlier you would have to manually go through the MIS and the pitch deck and then go check out the founder on LinkedIn. Can an analyst build a tool for himself or herself that the moment you get information about the company, you are able to get at the first instance itself, like whether it's something you should spend more time or not? Like, can you work smarter rather than harder? I would say those are the skill that one needs to build has changed slightly. Having said that, I mean, I don't think in our jobs, AI is still able to replace anybody's job right now.
David, you have anything to add to this?
I agree. I mean, as I just initially mentioned, it's the most inefficient class of asset class that we see. I mean, whatever work we might be doing on a quarterly, I think the work will go 4 times with AI because you can do the same task in half time or whatever, 1/10 time. So I think the way I look at it is, rather than people reducing, I think work increasing, and so the same set of people can do more tasks. So I think from that angle rather than just getting worried like I think people are going to job or there'll be less number of people. Just think like now with so much data points available, like you might not be looking at that because you did not have time or you were already doing grunt work. Now that all is kind of automated. So you will figure out new and more additional data points to figure out and work, doing much more depth diligence than what you were doing. So that's the way I look at things.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, using AI is actually how you leverage it more smartly rather than doing hard work, as Ankita said. And now we have the last question from Vanshika. She has a question around commoditization at the sourcing stage of PE firms. And will automation, not standardize the output for us as well as our competitor and make it difficult to, discover the undervalued startups and firms?
I would say not at all. Because even today, I would see, if you rank everybody in their usage of AI, there would be ones who would have gone a step beyond, and there would be ones who would always be a step behind. In fact, more than making it table stake, it's gonna really, make it a um, advantage for some and a disadvantage for some. It is going to increase the divide rather than making it more equalized. That's how I look at it.
Got
Yeah,
it. Okay, Devik, you have anything to add?
no, I mean, I completely agree on that point, right? I mean, I don't think it will standardize the output and all, and that's why I said like it will, as Ankita highlighted, create a divide between how people are using some of those tools and how are they using their own knowledge of those 30 years. I mean, as I said, like the thing with private market is everything is so much not publicly available, right? I mean, 90% of information that we interact with in general is not easily available to anybody, and that's why I think that creating a clear standardized output etc will be difficult. And yeah, I mean, so I still feel like how you use AI, how do you use your judgment, that all things will matter. And investment is also one about data analysis, but at the same time it's also about judgment. Like I mean, historical data is one. If everyone just use historical data and create alpha, then I mean, it would have been already done. But the point is, it involves a lot of human interaction, understanding how they will behave in certain circumstances, etc. And that all, I think, will create the differences, right, going forward, apart from how you use AI. So I don't see some of those modes still, at least in the short term or medium term, going up easily.
Definitely. And sourcing as a function is also very, relationship driven. I mean, you can't expect the AI to go out and interact with founders on a physical basis too. So that's my point, that, the relationship part of the job is not going away anytime soon, and we would need human oversight. And with that, we come to the end of the Q&A session. Thank you, everyone. And I would like to, hand it over to Diksha for the rest of the session. I would also like to, yeah, please go ahead, Diksha. You're muted.
Disha,
Diksha, you're
you're on
muted.
mute.
I'm sorry. So, here's a quick feedback poll. Please do take a moment to fill it so that we can plan the next session in a better way. So, as we come to the end of this session, a sincere thank you to Ankita and Daivik for such an insightful and engaging session. I'm certain everyone in this room is walking away with something valuable from this conversation. And Pratati, you asked all the questions right. Thank you for holding the conversation so well. The Winpe Career Network WhatsApp link is also in the chat. If you haven't joined, please join. This is where all the action happen. You will hear about all the upcoming session and career opportunities there. Thank you everyone to be here, and we hope to see you at the next session.
Thank you, Winpe team, for
Thank
organizing the
you.
session. Thank you.
Thank you,
You're
team.
welcome.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Diksha, for organizing this.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
Ankita. Thank you, Devik. Bye.